Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. The spirit of faith. Let's break that down a bit. First, the word spirit. It is a translation of the Arabic word ruh. Ruh is breath. Ruh is the power of breath, which sustains us. It is a cognate of the Hebrew word ruach, which also is breath, the spirit which sustains us. There are many different levels of spirit, but I wanted to address the topic of the spirit of faith. And faith is defined by Shoghi Effendi as obedience. So it is the breath of life of obedience, meaning, to my understanding, that it is through obedience to the will of God, by following the laws of God, by being firm in the covenant of Baha'u'llah, that we receive the virtues that come from that spirit of faith. So, the spirit of faith is a singularity, not a multiplicity, in my view. And it is that one spirit of faith which contains all the virtues that we can possibly acquire. And we spend our lives as servants of Baha'u'llah, the manifestation of God for this age, as a process of acquiring those virtues. There is nothing more important in life than acquiring virtues, becoming a virtuous person. I look around at the world and I see so much misery, so much pain and sorrow, so much of a lack of virtuousness. A lack of virtuousness leads to pain and sorrow. The presence of virtuousness leads to happiness and comfort. And so, because we all share that same spirit of faith, that same repository of virtues, of divine names and attributes reflected in our souls, we all share them, and therefore that makes us one. So, although we are unique, diverse beings, individual beings, yet we are also, by the same token, one. We are united with one another. So it is through the spirit of faith, through acquiring those virtues, that we understand what it means to experience, in a practical sense, unity in diversity. To me, unity in diversity is more of a verb than it is a noun. It is something that we do. It is something that we acquire. We acquire that unity. We acquire that diversity. We acquire that sense of individuality, and we acquire that diversity of virtues from the spirit of faith. Without the spirit of faith, we would not be human beings. We would be lower animals. Of course, we are animals as it is. We are a part of the great apes from a purely physical standpoint. What raises us above the level of the other great apes, the chimpanzees, the monkeys, the orangutans, and so forth, is the fact that we, as human beings, have a spirit of faith. And by that spirit of faith, by practicing it, by practicing faith, by engaging in a life in which faith is demonstrated in all of our actions, then we can become virtuous beings. The Apostle James said in the book of James, faith without works is dead. That has caused a great deal of confusion among many evangelical and fundamentalist Christians, many of whom believe that once one is saved, once one accepts Jesus, that is the end. One is automatically going to heaven, and that no matter what one does from that point forward, that one will still go to heaven. It is a promise, it is a pledge, it is a guarantee. There are no such guarantees. Life is a learning experience. Life is a process of acquiring virtues. And so that is why James, I believe, said that faith without works is dead, because it is by practicing works, by engaging in good deeds, that we acquire those wondrous virtues from the spirit of faith, and then we become one with one another. Sadly, all too many people are ignorant about the existence of that magnificent spirit of faith, and they live their lives in a state of pain and misery because they do not have faith. Faith is the comforter. Faith is that which brings joy to our hearts. Faith is that which raises us above other great apes. Faith is that which makes us exalted human beings, not just regular human beings. The human spirit, the rational faculty, or the rational soul makes us human beings. And so there are a lot of people walking around who are human beings because they have the human spirit. They are parts of the human spirit. They are creations of the human spirit. They are emanations of the human spirit, but they do not have that seed, as Shoghi Effendi called it, of the spirit, the seed of the spirit of faith, which begins, he says, to grow in the human soul. That process of growth needs to be a continuous one. If we stop, it is as if we are going backwards. So we can never stop. We have to always be in motion. We have to always be in a process of acquiring those virtues from the magnificent spirit of faith, that singular spirit of faith, which exists in the kingdom of God. And all of us, by accepting Baha'u'llah, by being firm in his covenant, by being obedient to his will, can continuously grow and develop by receiving those magnificent virtues. So the spirit of faith, in that sense, is really not that much different than faith, or perhaps it is not different at all. Faith or obedience and the spirit of faith is really pretty much the same thing. Putting spirit before it, again, emphasizes how important it is as our lifeblood, the breath of life, which sustains us all. For without the spirit of faith, we would simply be non-spiritual beings. We would not have the power of transformation. If there is one thing that is required of us in this world, it is transformation. It is to carry forward an ever advancing civilization, as Baha'u'llah wrote. And without the spirit of faith, we may think we are carrying forward a civilization, but we are not. We are not. We are basically lingering in a single place. We are not moving forward. We are not becoming better souls. And we are here in this world to become better souls, to acquire those virtues from the spirit of faith, because without those virtues, we will arrive in the world to come as beings who are disabled, beings who have a handicap, in effect. Now, I was born as a handicapped or disabled person, as an autistic. As an autistic, I had no heart. I did not even know what the heart was until about 20 years ago when I discovered it. And in discovering my heart, I discovered the spirit of faith. And I realized that the spirit of faith had been around me all the time. It had been accessible to me all the time. I just did not know it. I had a lack of awareness. I had a lack of cognizance of my own spiritual reality. I was literally spiritually dead. And I had no idea of how to become spiritually alive. No matter how hard I tried, and I did try, I could not become a loving being. I recall sitting down one time at the kitchen table of my parents' old house, feeling such grief that I literally loved no one. I did not love Baha'u'llah. I did not love the Bab. I did not love Abdu'l-Baha. I did not love my parents, my sister, or anybody else that I knew. I liked some of them. I enjoyed their company, but without that spirit of love, I had no real sense of connectedness with them. So, where does that love come from? That love is acquired through the spirit of faith. It is one of those many virtues, perhaps the underlying virtue, which makes up the spirit of faith. And we all need, in my view, to work on developing it constantly, constantly. We do not want to arrive in the next world as disabled or handicapped, as I was born into this world as a disabled or handicapped person. And I suffered the consequences for most of my life. Most of my life. I do not want to experience that again in the hereafter. I want to make sure that I am prepared. And the way to be prepared, in my view, is by acquiring the virtues of the spirit of faith. For the time being, this has been Mark, by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.